A grueling defeat for I am Ssegwanyi from Uganda in round 5 against candidate master Paiva Donlado from Mozambique. It was really fire on the board and something we always expect in the Olympiad as the board wants kind of fight for supremacy and dominance. Started with d4, d5, and after knight c3, knight f6, bishop to f4, a rapport Jobava system, tricky opening indeed that can lead to white position. We get to cc5, and after e3, there's an exchange of the d pawns, and a6. Well, quite a natural move and something you need to expect in the position, lest the knight becomes annoying, thus justifying why knight c3 is played instead of the typical c3 in London. So knight f3, and after knight c6, we get c knight to e5. This is a typical move in the position, which kind of negates the idea for black to develop the light squared bishop. As we'll see, it became a pain in the rear since it never had a very good square. So if we continued with another move like bishop to e2, or even queen to d2, or bishop to d3, well, we can see that this pin would get to also be annoying and black would kind of solve all the opening problems. So knight to e5 negates that fact. And then pawn to e6, the move that will get to haunt the IM forever in this position, since they made a very positional exchange of the knights on c6, and it just locked out the bishop with simple knight to f1. So yeah, we get to see a knight on the rim which is dim and a very bad light squared bishop on c8, and that became the focus of the game all through, since both of these pieces kind of made the position critical. So bishop to d6 was played, and after exchange of bishops, queen takes d6, bishop to d3, castles kingside, and the game became a bit normal. Rook to b8, principled move I might say, which is a rook to the open file. Rook to e1, another principled move, a rook to a semi-open file, but also preventing the pawn break e5, something that black would want to do to free up their position. a5, kind of cleaning the diagonal out, so that in case of the exchange of bishops, it's possible. The square a6, a3, preventing the queen or even rook to access that square. h6, preventive too, but above all, opening a luft for the king in case of any background issues. Queen to d2, and after knight to g4, f4 was played. I loved the move f4, which is ideal in the position, totally locking out the possibility of playing e5, but above all preventing checkmate. So another way to go would have been g3, but it allows e5, and after f3 chasing away the knight, a beautiful pawn sacrifice with e4 is possible, freeing up the light squares, but ideally isolating the pawn on d4. It's not really isolated, but it kind of exposes it to attack. After pawn takes f, pawn takes e, pawn takes e, then we get c rook takes e4, knight f6 attacking the rook, rook to f4, hanging onto the d pawn, and g5, which still attacks the rook, rook to f3, and the pawn falls with check, attacking the knight too. So this would lose a piece for white, which can be recovered after rook takes on f6. So we get to see it. It's not the only possibility, but bishop takes e4 is also possible, but after f4, bishop to f3, f4 comes into the position, and you cannot take the knight because the position becomes very active, and the pawn down the board gives black sufficient counterplay for their loss of the pawn. So if queen doesn't come to, okay, if rook takes the bishop, then we get to see the check, which is annoying, and the king is either busted or pieces are falling off the board. So a possible continuation would be king to f1, and after queen to d5, threatening queen to h1, winning the rook. It would be bad news. So that's the reason for, that would be a possibility if g3 is played. Yeah, so let's go back to the position, and after f4, bishop to d7, connecting rooks. there's not many squares the bishop can go to, and you wouldn't want your rooks disconnected after all. So principle it is to just connect the rooks. b3, a very nice and silent move, preparing knight to c4. Since the bishop has occupied d7, that would be a very annoying square for the knight. So bishop goes back to c8, seeing that knight to c5 is coming. So it's really a tight rope that black is walking without a clear development strategy. The position is still equal, or so it says by the engine, but it's not really pleasant for black to play since there is no clear development plan. So bishop goes back to c8, rook to f1, defending the f pawn and also preparing to probably go pawn grabbing on a5, queen to c7, backing down, rook from a to d, a to e1, which is a very nice move, I may say. It brings the last piece, which is kind of on the sidelines, into the game. So it prepares to possibly lift up one of the rooks and start an attack. The position knight f6 was played, which literally allows rook to e3. Well, the knight couldn't stay on g4 because it's kind of hanging in mid-air, and at the end of the day it would still be chased away. So knight to f6 just coming back to reorganize and probably challenge the knight, which can go to c5 is ideal. So rook to e3 is played, rook to a8, defending the pawn, freeing up the queen, knight to c5, a very beautiful outpost. The position is still dynamically equal, but quite hard for black to play. Now if it says it's equal but black doesn't have obvious 10 moves yet, we can all see the plans for white to be rook sliding over, possibly g4, g5 coming in the air, and a possible queen maneuver. So it's not clear for black how to continue the game. Rook a7 is played. A very interesting idea. The IM author saw a possibility to defend the 7th rank with the queen and rook, which is true because we get to see there's fire on the board happening on the g7 square. So after any f pawn push or even pawn sacrifice on g6, we will need to have a rook which defends the 2nd rank. That is the h7 and g7 squares. So queen comes to e2, a very beautiful move, totally clamping down on the bishop a6 possibility, negating it, and also preparing to play the move g4. Queen to d6, allowing the rook to scan through the position, the rank. g4 comes, and knight to d7, too little too late. We get to see that should have been a move played about 4 moves back, but the advantage is now grueling that it no longer helps. Now, b4 was played. b4 is a very ideal move, or logical, I may say, that you'd want to bind the knight there and not allow the exchange to happen. So it's quite a human move. After analysis, it shows that taking the knight is much better because it keeps the pieces under lock and key so that you can actually continue with your attack. This gives the advantage to white, as black can only be there like a sitting duck, not doing much in the position. So let's say after g5, g6, and pawn takes g6. Well, the queen can't go pawn grabbing because the rook just slides over and something is falling on that side of the board, with possibilities of queen to h5 and a rook sacrifice, or even a bishop sacrifice, winning the game. So that would really go wrong. f5 is also terrible since it hangs the pawn on e6, clearly losing all the pawns on the king side and the game later. Yeah. So it's really a terrible idea. If bishop takes d7, then we can still continue with g5, and after g6, rook to h3, and clearly we're breaking through. Even h5 doesn't help since there is a rook sacrifice, and now the rook was disconnected from the 7th rank, which makes it significantly worse. The rook can't be taken because the queen comes in and there's a mate to follow. So let's say f5 and queen comes to check on g6 and the king to h8, the rook to f3 to h3 is mate. So if rook to d8, then queen stops the intrusion, bishop to c8, rook to f3, planning the same checkmate. We get to see a very sneaky e5, preventing rook to h3, but then bishop check, king comes to h8, bishop to g6 check, king to g8, queen h check, and then pawn takes. So there's a lot of pressure on f7, and the game is slowly but surely being lost as we get to see that much as black is hanging on the edge, it's not enough to really hold the position, as the f1 is going to fall very, very soon. So that was a possibility. Oh, sorry about that. And so b4 is quite a human move that you would expect in the position, and one can't really judge it. So after the pawn exchange, a takes b, a takes b, knight takes on c5. As I said, too little too late, the hero. As we get to see now, the knight exchange doesn't alleviate the pressure as it binds the queen side, making it even look funnier. So queen played on d8, g5 still came, and a critical blunder came from I.M. Arthur, who totally lost the game on the spot after pawn takes h, h takes in g5, which blundered to a tactical move, bishop to h7. Well, here the game was resigned due to the continuation that anything with takes allows the queen to come in and then checkmate to follow with a simple rook to h3. Well, avoiding taking the pawn is also not helping that much, as the rook and queen can still slide into the position. So the game is positionally lost, and there's not much to do. It was really a nice fight. Hope to see more games from the African teams as we continue to review them. Shalom.